Before we begin, thank you very much to Grawl Brown for joining the Patreon campaign. One of the growing number of T-Rex VTubers I'm becoming acquainted with. But yes, thank you very much for the support. Thank you very much for helping to keep the channel coming and the daily content going. I usually flip those words around. Never mind. We need to get into this today. So, I started looking at what it's hard right now as a collector who just when I go to a store, I find absolutely nothing. But I'm starting to find Cyberworld all over the place. And the more I just kind of stare at that, this is my only option if I want new toys, the more I give in just because, okay, I want to leave with something. And between that and what the YouTube series is doing, I'm starting to come around on this whole thing. So I was kind of down on this series. You'll recall I compared Takara's approach with Hasbro's approach to making this quick little stand-in series for Earthspark after it fell away, after its apparent cancellation, which may or may not have one last continuation to be determined. But the more I've delved into this and the more chances I've given to this, I've actually started to get it. I've actually started to get it. So was I being too harsh on this whole series? Was I just like judging it very quickly? And granted, from a collector standpoint, yes, there is a lot to judge about this series. But if I start taking things into context and giving them a chance, then maybe there's a little bit more to be gained. So let's be fair to it today. I'm going to be fair to Cyberworld today. Now, we'll start with the cartoon. And we admit the cartoon is just a quick CGI 5-minute, per episode kind of thing. It's a micro series, so it's not going to ever produce a huge amount of media. But the media it produces is quick, it's easy to take in. And to be honest with you, it really is kind of aiming toward exactly what is in vogue right now. You've got a lot of gamer visuals, a lot of gamer style scenarios, but you also have this 5-minute chunk. We live in the world of TikTok and those, YouTube shorts and just those super short, quick form videos that are exceptionally popular to us ADHD generation. Not been diagnosed. I just mean that's what we're living in. Point being, this is hitting the mark of like quick, snappy show. We only have 5 minutes to tell a story. You don't exactly wait around on things. So it's actually like surprisingly quick. Like when you start just watching episodes, they go by so fast, but they're getting so much into them. They're exceptionally time efficient. Also, that doesn't mean that they aren't without development. I've actually really enjoyed seeing how the characters kind of develop out. Between Mirage kind of waffling between whatever side is giving him the most benefit, Chop Shop showing up wherever. Oh, we'll talk about him in a bit. And then characters like Galvatron just kind of showing up, being a menace, and leaving, and just leaving themselves as like a lingering plot thread to come back to, and an extra threat out there aside from all the other threats we have going on. But it's that development among the cast that's getting interesting to me. You see Mirage that's starting to agree more with the Autobots, and we know that toy, because of the photos of it, will eventually be branded an Autobot. It's just a matter of waiting for that to actually come in. Even that, the fact that Mirage is willing to work with Decepticons as well, and was working with Starscream when we first saw this series, even that plays to old Transformers lore, where Mirage seemed to be the Autobot that writers usually pick to be a potential traitor, whether that was in G1, where he was controlled by Bombshell, or in IDW, where his Spotlight issue pretty much pinned him as a potential Decepticon. And the other one was Grimlock. The other one is Grimlock. This one I've also enjoyed the development on, because he tried to work with Optimus before. It didn't go well, so the entire relationship got soured. But Prime is kind of slowly winning him back over just by showing good leadership and good battle tactics. In this shot here, he's actually commending Prime. He's not joining up with the Autobots again, but he is willing to admit, Prime was actually the better bot that day. And that's refreshing to see. It's actually making it interesting to see how their dynamic is going to work out. And then you have the Decepticon side of things, where things are a lot looser, but they are trying to come together. Megatron is gradually developing a team that he can count on, that is around a lot more often. And he is proving himself to be an exceptional manipulator. Very smooth talker, very in control. He's not giving away to any kind of anger. There's just a bravado and a confidence to him. And it's something that he conveys to both Autobot and Decepticon. We saw in his first appearance how he kind of manipulated Bumblebee into helping him out with one of the challenges, despite the fact that he wasn't performing the challenge correctly. And, you know, we've seen at times where, yeah, like he's been able to use his words to get the better of the Autobots, and he's even gotten a few of the games under his belt. This is a Megatron who carries some wins with him, which is rare, frankly. And it's a Megatron that, again, I kind of wrote off because I just thought, wow, it's a weird bull Megatron. Why is Megatron a bull all of a sudden? But no, the way he is working, and now as the story is at the moment, also trying to manipulate Scorponok, who has been the big ominous threat this entire series so far. Like that end game boss that you can see in the distance, but every time you get too close is going to wreck you. Yeah, that's what Scorponok has been. And yeah, we're working up to the point where they can take him on. But Megatron is working up to the point where he can cooperate with Scorponok, and that is a far more dangerous prospect. It's a far more interesting prospect, to be frank. And then you have all of these more secretive elements that are going on in the show's plotline. You've got these dark dreams that Optimus Prime is having, these Autobots that we know were part of whatever happened before they ended up on this planet, and now they are nowhere to be found. You know, I'm presuming characters like Wheeljack, who are in the toy line, will show up eventually, but for now we have no idea what happened to them. All we know is Elita had a team that is gone now, and Bumblebee and Optimus were part of some kind of mission that went south, and they ended up on this world. So there's mystery element to the story. There's also a few others. Like I said, Galvatron is a thing in this world, and I'm finally getting Galvatron versus Megatron in a series, finally, but it's Galvatron in name only, and I'm not a fan of that. So it's only like briefly touching what I would really like them to do with those two characters. And now we have this new thing. Apparently, Scorponok has been experimented on for a long time, and we hear voice logs of someone who sounds very Soundwave, but no one knows their voice. So it's more implied that the vocoder effect is like just a way of disguising the voice rather than implying that it's Soundwave. We have mysteries, which is fascinating that they can actually work all of this development in amongst characters, but also convey the mystery aspect as well. Like I said, it's a nice little balance. Like, they've actually been doing no wasted time with this series. Like, every beat, everything they do in each of these little 5-minute chunks that they get has purpose, has reason, has development toward the overall plot, which is actually a really good thing. It takes a lot of skill to write small chunks of things and then string them together like that. And then there's this little gremlin. I don't know why I like Chop Shop so much. I just do. He's a little Gollum of the Transformer universe now, and like I cherish this bug. I don't know why. He just amuses me a lot. I love that he can just show up. And just show up and like randomly team up with Bumblebee or be on the Autobot side during one of the games. It's just funny to see what they do with him. It's almost like a Deadpool role in like you never quite know what he's going to do or who he's going to side with. That might be giving a little bit too much credit. Just suffice to say, like, Chop Shop is my precious boy, and I will harm anyone who harms him. Now, let's go to the toy side, because the toys are something I also underestimated. So, when you come with a typical Cyber Changers, I will admit, these are pretty much all the same, and we pretty much know exactly what we're getting out of every single one of them when you see them. I still think Snarl's the best one. I've seen some Wave 2s. I have some Wave 2s, like Elita 1. I still think Snarl is the best one. Just so the transformation scheme that they've agreed to for all the beast formers in this series just works best with him. But that said, that same transformation scheme can be found on Galvatron, and this is where we need to start talking about the armored Cyber Changers. I completely wrote these off. As just, well, they're just more Cyber Changers. They just have like some big goofy like gimmicked weapon attached to them. And for the most part, that is exactly what they are. Like, it's just a big goofy weapon attached to a small figure. But that said, there are tricks involved that I had not considered before and did not realize until I started owning more of them. For instance, a lot of this stuff is 5mm pegged. Those flames on the tip of Galvatron's gimmick weapon, you can actually remove those and use those as effect parts in not only Transformers with 5mm gun barrels, but also just amongst other Cyberworld figures, like even as just impact effects. If someone's arm is exploding from a blast or a slash, you can use this flame effect to convey that. In fact, if you do have like a slashing weapon, you just stick that right in the middle of those flames coming off of Bumblebee's arm, for instance. That might actually look really cool. And it goes beyond that. So the more I started realizing what these gimmicks were doing, the more I realized where it was familiar from. And it's the Dark of the Moon toy line. And you'll know, if you've watched this channel long enough, you'll know I am an apologist for this toy line. Yeah, it's movie aesthetic, but I think the toys were done far, far better than Revenge of the Fallen. They weren't so obsessed with getting everything completely 100% screen accurate that they could actually make the toys feel like good, sensibly engineered Transformers. Like, they felt more fun. And part of what made them fun was the fact that that gimmick, that intrusive gimmick that all the toys had to have back then, all of that was taken out of the core figure and stuck into the weapon. Now, it is one way that Hasbro started getting us used to smaller deluxes and Voyagers, because that's where a chunk of their development budget went. And future Voyagers and Deluxes pretty much shared the same size as the Dark of the Moon toys without the big weapon gimmicks, though. So you do have that. So it starts feeling very familiar to that. I realize now that if I were to spend $10 to get a Transformer any other way, it would be automorphing. It would have some weird little like half transformation to it, But here we get full transforming stuff. And the armor changers, for instance, yeah, it feels very much the same way. But to pay $15 now, like, I know what that would get me in Transformer terms. And while, yes, I prefer some Warrior class toys like we used to get, I know that might not be financially feasible because of points at everything going on in the world. So I will take what we can get, and I will try to appreciate it for what it is, not hate it for what it isn't. The Bumblebee toy, for instance, I completely wrote off his weapon because it literally just is just a big chunk of like shrapnel pieces that fold down into a wider chunk of shrapnel pieces. It's a very unimpressive weapon gimmick, and it doesn't really look like a weapon in his hand. Like, it's supposed to look like an engine block with blades coming off of it, but it never hits the point of like he's holding it as a gun. It doesn't look like a gun though. However, this is again where the gimmick actually has elements to it that they don't really tell you about. Everything is attached by 5mm again. So those blades off of that weapon, you can take those off. You can make arm-mounted blades. You can make handheld blades. You can use those in other spots for other characters. It feels like they got a little bit of the weaponizer gimmick that they intended to have in this toy line. Like, because it has that interchangeability that they didn't, that they tried to touch on in past lines, but they don't even mention it here. It's like a side gimmick, almost like the C-clips in the Dark of the Moon toy line, to bring that one back again. It's true in Chop Shop too. Like, I showed that during the review, that yeah, those pincers that are on his gimmick, you can take those off. You can take those off and mount them onto other parts of him. You can take the legs off, of, like the bug legs off of the legs. And you can use those elsewhere or just clean up his overall look from robot mode. As a result, this has actually been one of my like pick up and goof with figures on my desk lately. I don't know why I like this little gremlin so much. I just do. And then there's like the Optimus Prime. The Optimus Prime, which I looked for at my local store and it was not on any of the pegs. And then I just happened to spot on top of the shelf at Walmart, they just happened to have another stack of like spare Cyberworld toys. Yeah, and I just kind of like, I grab a lightsaber and I start knocking around the top shelf just to kind of see pictures. And they had an Optimus Prime. So, you know, okay, it's kind of hidden, tucked away. Let me grab it. This thing isn't bad at all. Okay, so it's got an auto morph for the transformation. Okay, a lot of them do. It's that gimmick weapon that actually kind of works. I mean, aside from the fact that the wings are 5mm peg, that means you can take them off the weapon at any time to clean it up. That means you can armor up his vehicle mode. That also means that you can armor up his robot mode if you want to use those for shields, or you can just leave him on the gun and stick it on his back, and boom, you have a flight pack for this Optimus Prime. There's a lot to be left to your imagination here. You grab the blades from Bumblebee and stick those on, see if those will work. Aside from the fact it is just kind of a really effective automorph weapon. You know, you pull the lever back and the two cannons go together to form that chain gun barrel, and the wings flip up to kind of make it more solid looking. They actually do think of these things. Like, it actually does make for a fairly solid little toy if you just got $15 to burn. You just want something to goof around with on your desk. And because of all that interchangeability, I'm starting to see where the appeal is here. I really wish they would announce that or show it off or demonstrate it somehow, because it really does change my perception of the toys. When you just start realizing how many different things you can do with all of these parts, and realize how many 5mm parts and peg holes there are amongst these toys, it really does open it up to some really imaginative play if they would actually make you aware of it. So in that sense, yeah, this is actually a really good toy line for little kids. I can actually understand this now. And with that understanding and a 25% off discount, I took a stab at the largest toy, Scorponok. This toy is awful. I only picked it up because there was also a deal going on with that toy specifically, and I was really hoping the deals would stack and I could get it for $30, but that was a no-go. They did a $20 off thing. I grabbed it for $40. It still is not worth $40. It's a big hollow chunk of plastic that barely moves and barely transforms and has a couple of lights and sound things. And it is absolutely not worth the $60 that they are asking for retail. I have no idea how they got to that number. I was hopeful at least. Everything else of the smaller sizes went well. I don't have the Grimlock. I need to see how the Grimlock turned out in hand. He's kind of in the same realm with that Scorponok of not looking great, but, you know, maybe if I get it on a clearance deal or something, maybe we got something. But then again, they seem to sell. Like my Target sold out of the Grimlock. How did that happen? So you never know. Maybe a Black Friday thing. So yeah, just in general, I'm starting to realize I did to this toy line what I did with Rescue Bots and Cyberverse. You know, in Rescue Bots, I still haven't gone to pick up, but everyone who watched that cartoon told me, yeah, it's actually like a fun, charming cartoon. It doesn't really do anything wrong. You can still enjoy it. Like in a My Little Pony way, like it'll appeal to any age generation. And then with the toy lines, yeah, I kind of wrote those off completely too. In reference to like Cyberverse, I actually didn't pay that show any attention because it was doing this 11-minute episode format. You know, and it just kind of seemed like a really cheap kids-based line, but the story elements in Cyberverse were really, really solid. You know, the Quintesson arc alone is worth that entire series. So I decided, like, let's put that aside. Let's actually give the show a chance. Let's actually follow it and see how it goes. But I'm learning, maybe I was too rough. Maybe I was too rough, and if we have better toys than this ahead of us, maybe we'll be in for something really special. So, those are just the thoughts of the day. That's just me just realizing maybe I'm just being a little bit too curmudgeon about the kids' toy line this time. Let me know in the comments below what you've been thinking about Cyberworld so far, whether that's the toy line or the cartoon, either way. And as always, I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.